All right, welcome back to Film Shake for episode 15. I'm Jordan.
This is Nick.
And we're here today to talk about Broken Arrow from 1996. This was Nick's pick, so thank you, Nick, for this just nostalgic blast of a movie. I'm really excited to get into this, as I said on the previous podcast, and as I'm sure listeners will understand going forward with this show, I'm a really big Christian Slater fan. I loved him in the 90s, and rewatching this, his charisma and his coolness factor still holds true. I'm still swooning, if a grown man can swoon for another grown man from 20 years ago. But yeah, I love Christian Slater. I'm excited to get into this. And John Travolta too, man, just turning in a really fun performance as this crazy villain. But yeah, excited to get into this. So
this is the healing balm that we needed after a while.
We needed something to sink our teeth in with some enjoyability. So yeah, I'm glad that we went this route after those two big bombs.
Big bombs. But I feel like you're stalling a little. And also, speaking of enjoyability,
yes.
So how was Monster Island, buddy? You lost in trivia because
I wrote
you didn't write any
questions this time. Okay, I got pre-planned. I mean, of course, with Broken Arrow, Christian Slater, I had to get into it, so be prepared with some Slater trivia. But yeah, I wrote some questions this time so that I don't have to suffer another horrible fate of watching another Asylum movie. But no, so you want me to just jump into it about Monster Island, huh?
What's up with this movie? Because I told you before, I watch Asylum films with my cousin Jared. They're awful. We get little pleasure out of it, but we just keep watching them.
Okay, well, this is my first Asylum film, and basically what I can gather about it, I didn't really do much research on this because I didn't feel like I owed it that much time. But, from the credits, I could tell this was a sci-fi movie or maybe made for sci-fi TV. It said sci-fi at somewhere in the credits in the beginning. But basically, Monster Island is about a mining crew. They're doing some environmentally sketchy stuff on the ocean floor, and they come across like a giant kaiju, basically is what they call it throughout the film. They don't really
How sketchy?
I don't really know. I did the dishes while I watched the first part of this movie, so I mean, to lessen the punishment, I guess. No, it held my interest. But yeah, they're doing something sketchy. The news is all after this billionaire played by, I think it's Eric Roberts, who plays this crafty, charismatic billionaire of this mining company. He's doing some sketchy stuff. And they come across the giant sea monster that they reference as a kaiju. They never really explain what a kaiju is for those who aren't familiar. But yeah, so they end up having to escape in this underwater vessel from this kaiju, and then the military gets involved, and then they have to hunt down this lady who knows all about the kaiju lore and how to defeat this kaiju with another kaiju. It's made for like $30, but it has like probably some of the worst special effects I've seen in a long time. Just like straight up, terrible stock green screen kind of stuff that I've probably used in the library studio where we record. For everything that I just said, I'd still rather watch this than Godzilla again. Yeah. I mean,
oh, wow.
For what it is, like, again, just made on obviously such a small budget, it's probably better than it actually needs to be. Though there's some of that kaiju lore and stuff in there that's actually kind of cool or interesting. And, I'd say the acting, the performances are serviceable. Like, nobody's outright terrible. It's obviously like cheap, and some of the costumes don't fit and stuff like that. Yeah, it's just obviously really, really low budget. But
Eric Roberts just likes tight pants. That's what I've heard.
All right, so which one is Eric Roberts? Is he the older guy with the beard, or has he got the ponytail? I didn't look up any of the actors for this.
Oh no, you don't know Eric Roberts on sight?
No, I don't.
He was one of those two. He was one of those two.
He was one of those two. All right.
Yeah, because, in Asylum movies, sometimes people wear wigs. He could have the ponytail. I don't know. What was the other one?
Ponytail or older guy with beard and who's very domineering. Oh, Eric.
He's great at being domineering.
Okay. Eric Roberts. He was like he was the ship captain or one of the Navy captain. Yeah, I recognize him now. Yeah, he kind of had a bit part. It's kind of one of those movies where the one guy with like a maybe recognizable name like Eric Roberts, but he's really not the star of the film. It's like a bunch of other nobodies. They just kind of threw him in with this bit part because I guess he needed money for dialysis or something. But
oh no,
sorry, Eric Roberts. But yeah,
he got the beatus. He might not. I don't know. We'll have to see if he's got any Wilford Brimley mention in his bank statements.
No, I mean the script here is not terrible. I'd say I'd probably cringed more at Godzilla than something like this. And again, you kind of know what it is going into it, that it's not going to be great. You have very low expectations, so it probably has way more science and actual like research that went into some of at least like the dialogue and the vocabulary that the characters use. I was pretty surprised by that. Like at times it gets way too over technical, talking about like volcanic silica and stuff like that. Like, but I don't know, the script, I would love to see this made on a Godzilla scale budget because like I said, the script, it's kind of hokey. I mean, it's a monster movie and everything, but it could be really fun, like in a Broken Arrow way on like a huge like Godzilla budget. It'd be way more enjoyable than the 1998 Godzilla for sure.
Well, let me ask you the most important question. Is it 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and is there a P. Diddy song?
No, and thankfully not.
It's already
it's
better.
Already better. That's right.
It wins.
It wins automatically. Nothing. No knock against P. Diddy. I mean, I love Mo Money, Mo Problems. Come on.
I'm gonna knock P. Diddy because why not? But the Asylum, they don't just do kaiju rip-off movies. They rip off everything to make a buck. I wanted to tell you about one that I'm not going to assign you this movie. I've already watched it, and I'm not going to make you watch it.
Thank you.
But they advertised a movie called First Furry Valentine.
All right.
This is what this movie was called. They put the trailer before their movies in 2010 and 2011. That just shows you how many Asylum movies Jared and I have watched that I can pinpoint when they showed previews for which movies on their DVDs. But they changed the name from First Furry Valentine to the more family-friendly Princess and the Pony. So this is like a micro-budget kids movie, and it's about a girl and a pony, and it's pretty lousy. But
wow.
First Furry Valentine, if you Google it, you actually won't get a lot of weird stuff besides the trailer for Princess and the Pony. So check that out if you're in the mood for pain.
I don't know if I'm ever in the mood for pain as far as movies go. I just like inflicting pain on you in our trivia battle. So, yeah.
Oh, no.
Listeners, beware. It's coming down hard later on at the end of the show. Gonna bring down the thunder.
I made a hard trivia question list and a moderate trivia question list depending on how much heat you brought.
So you have like an arsenal to throw back at me.
Much like our upcoming movie, I was anticipating your next move.
Like it.
It's time for Broken Arrow.
Dun, dun, dun. Man, yeah, I had so much fun revisiting this movie, and like I said in the previous episode, I was not aware of John Woo as a director in 1996 because I was 10, but I'd have to say next to Hard Boiled, I don't know, I'd have to rewatch that one, but this is a really nostalgic watch for me, and it brought me so much enjoyment. So I'm excited to get into the nitty gritty of the plot here with you.
When had you last seen this?
Might have been 96. I don't know. I watched it quite a few times growing up, but it had been a long time. And I definitely did not remember this great boxing match opening at the beginning. The most vivid memory I probably had of this was the, down in the copper mine scenes, which are great, which we can get into later. But yeah, let's talk about this opening boxing match between Travolta and Slater.
Let's go for it.
I love it because it sets up Travolta's character, right away as this kind of arrogant, very just unlikable, dastardly kind of guy. And it just shows Slater getting, beaten down in this, boxing match. They're just kind of sparring with each other. They're both officers in the Air Force, and so they're just taking some time out to spar together. But you can see this kind of friendly rivalry between them right off the bat, but it just immediately puts you on Slater's side, and especially for me, because like I said, I love Christian Slater. Even if he's a pretty boy Jack Nicholson wannabe, I didn't say he is.
I don't think
some people
he is.
say that, but even if
he's the Sladester,
and he's the best. Like, tell me, at least in the 90s, who else is as good or better at a snarky comeback? Just right off. All right, so he gets beat up in the boxing match.
That's right, in his white shirt, which he's wearing white. Travolta's wearing black, so immediately
Right.
John Woo is showing you his good guy and his bad guy through the color scheme. As he comes down on this boxing ring, which is completely an insular environment, everything else is black at the beginning, but the white ring, as he zooms down into it, and you see these two guys. One thing, though, I did notice that bothered me this time, and boy, is anything negative I say about this movie going to be a minor nitpick that I immediately walk back. They don't draw any blood, even though they do pound the crap out of each other's faces in this fight. But
yeah,
Christian Slater mentions later in the scene that you're about to talk about, we were just sparring.
and we'll get plenty of blood later too. Yeah,
So that's my
say.
walk back, is they were just sparring. When they
Right.
fight later, there's even a mention about the blood that's being drawn. So
Well, to bring it back to the snarky comeback, so later after the fight, they're in the locker room and, they're both getting into their Air Force uniforms, and Slater hands Travolta a $20 bill, which will be, very important throughout the rest of the film. So he gives him the $20 saying that he won. And Travolta's, kind of arrogantly like, nah, you keep it, like you weren't trying, you don't have the guts and all this stuff. And Slater's just like, well, we're just sparring. And Travolta says, well, that's your problem right there, that attitude and everything. Well, then he keeps trying to give him the $20 back. Slater's like, no, it's yours. He's like, no, you keep it. And he's like, no, it really is yours. I took it out of your wallet when you were in the shower.
Gotcha.
And it's just like, we have our good guy and we have our bad guy. Travolta, he's a larger than life character all throughout here, but right from the beginning, he hasn't dipped into the crazy yet, obviously, but you can tell right from the get-go that he's arrogant, he's cocky, he's really confident and full of himself. But we don't have just like a wimpy good guy here. I mean, just like Slater always does, he brings this kind of bad boy persona. He's also pretty, kind of cocky with, again, snarky, and he's got these comebacks and everything. So again, I just like a good guy like that. It reminds me of a classic hero, say like Indiana Jones or something, where you have like these witty comebacks and things like that.
Which
so
we have references to later in the movie.
Oh yeah, we do.
Can't wait to talk about
I
that.
didn't think about that. Oh yeah, and then we got a mine and everything too.
Yeah, for sure.
So some uses of different cords as whips.
That's right.
And slinging
And
in.
the Nazis later on.
The Nazis, yeah, we got Nazis here. Exploding heads. No, if there was going to be an exploding head in a John Woo film, that wouldn't be out of place, but I don't think we have any exploding heads. But yeah, Indiana Jones, Christian Slater, same thing.
That's
right.
So he missed his chance, man, because they never made a good Indiana Jones movie after the 80s. If
Right.
they just had started it over in the late 90s, I think Christian Slater could have done it. That's a good thought.
Man, that is a good thought.
Why aren't we Hollywood executives?
I almost wish that would have happened. I'm sad that didn't happen now. That would have been great. I guess for me, like, Christian Slater is obviously a recognizable name. A lot of, he's a big star in the 90s and stuff. But I guess growing up, he wasn't like some sort of like secret. I almost felt like he didn't get enough attention that he deserved. So to me, he was always kind of like my underdog. Like I was always rooting for him to like be bigger than he got. But I mean, he was still pretty big. But I guess in my limited viewpoint, when I was a kid, it was just like, yeah, man, he's awesome, and nobody knows about Christian Slater. Like, I'm the only hardcore Christian Slater fan.
I'm the one.
But
It's kind of the bummer of life, right? That you figure it out, but the time in which you figured it out is already lost, because Christian Slater had a lot of substance abuse problems that I think held him back from maybe taking off like he should have. He had some criminal events happen where he faced some charges, and I think he really had to reckon with himself, and he got clean and sober. But, I mean, you got to think the 90s and the 2000s, he spent battling that addiction, which is unfortunate. You know, he finally overcame it, but I think that probably took away some of his chances to do things like that. And he didn't get that kind of Robert Downey Jr., fortunate
sure.
Iron Man role that launched him back to stardom. But I mean, he's done some cool stuff. I want to say that he won some Emmys for Mr. Robot, maybe. If not, he definitely got some accolades for that show, which I need to watch. My wife's a big fan of that.
Yeah, he definitely got a lot of cred for that show, for sure. I've watched a little bit of it. It kind of got too depressing for me after a while, so I stopped. He was good in it, though. I mean, he was definitely played his part well. But anyway, get back to this movie. Yeah, so they're in the Air Force. They go and see their general, and I have no idea what they're talking about in this scene where the general's giving them like the details of their mission and stuff. It's just like a bunch of numbers and words.
Oh, I get it now. I didn't even pay attention to that part whenever I was a teenager. Basically, they're trying to see, we do stealth tests before, and we can make our planes radio invisible. Or radar invisible, I should say, not radio. Wrong technology. Maybe I don't know what's going on. No, but they want to test and see if they've got live nukes, like really strong nukes, if they're still radar invisible. They want to test that out, in the case that we do ever actually have to nuke someone besides Utah, our stealth bombers will be invisible to radar. So that's why they do the mission that kicks off the film, after the boxing match.
They make it pretty clear, I guess, further on. It's just that conversation. I was like, they're talking about the B-83s and all this stuff. And I was like, what are they talking about? But then I thought it was really smart of John Woo. He put a poster in the background that has like testing, blah, blah, blah. And it's like right over the general's shoulder. So it's just like, if you don't get anything else from this scene, just know that they're going on a testing exercise. So... And then they've got that awesome super 90s slow-mo shot where they're walking into the hangar and they do the salute as they board the plane and or the bomber. That's just great. Anytime you can throw in some slow-mo, especially with Slater and Travolta.
I love, too, that Slater's got this. It reminds me of when we were talking about Arnie and Total Recall. He's kind of got this bemused smirk throughout the entire movie.
Oh yeah,
he's just enjoying himself so much, and it's infectious.
Oh yeah, man, and that's just the persona or the charisma that he brings to everything. I think he's just always got that kind of cocky smirk, for sure.
The glory of Slater.
The glory of Slater. Like I said, I'm gonna swoon. No, we get up into the bomber, when they're up in the clouds and stuff, and I thought, hey man, the graphics here actually look pretty legit for how old this movie is. It wasn't that obvious. It wasn't so god awful that it was like, oh man, that's terrible CGI from the 90s. At times it had me questioning, like, is that a model? Is that CGI? Did they get a real plane? What is that? Okay, it's probably some early CGI, but it still looked pretty good. What did you think?
Yeah, nice job, 90s technicians. I thought it looked great, and the story dictates that they're flying at night through the clouds, which gives the FX team a little boost there. They don't have to make everything quite so clear and highly detailed. But yeah, for me, I felt the same way as I did when I watched this as a teenager. I thought everything looked great. The only time that you can really see the miniature work, and it's just kind of tough with a stealth bomber with practical effects to make it look perfectly real, is you can tell it's a model when it crashes eventually, which we'll get to. It still looks awesome. I mean, I love it. But, you can tell it's a model there. It's not as bad as the end of Executive Decision, if anyone's seen that, where it looks like a Toys R Us toy set is getting destroyed. I'll blame that on Seagal.
I have not seen that, so. And if it's got Seagal in it, I don't plan on watching it.
He's not in it
Sorry,
for
Seagal
long.
fans.
That's the biggest pleasure of the film.
Well, I love how it jumps from them and the bomber. Like you said, they're going on their stealth mission to make sure that they can stay hidden on the radar with the nukes. And it jumps to this campsite, and we've got an old man in a tent with a lady. We presume, we never see her. But a park ranger pulls up, tells them, oh, we've got a problem with this campfire. All of a sudden, the park ranger's taking out this old man. Got murder at the campsite, just shooting them up, shooting through the tent. We got blood all over the tent.
And if you didn't know this was a John Woo movie by this point, the slow-mo of the guy getting shot and reacting to every individual bullet hit before falling onto the fire and sending up
and
sparks
falling
in
onto
slow-mo.
the fire. Yes. Yes. Now John Woo has arrived in full glory.
And doves fly out of the fire. Not really.
Then we've got, bad boys and the boss, the mercenaries and the boss roll up in the Humvee. So we've got, I believe is it Pritchett, the financier? He rolls up. I thought this was a perfect edit to engage some intrigue right here at the beginning. Because, so far we just have this kind of friendly rivalry between these two guys, Slater and Travolta. There's some mischief afoot, there's some murder at the campsite. And then we cut back to Travolta and Slater, so they just kind of leave that hanging there. But I thought that was a great little edit to kind of stir up some mystery right away.
It's great, and you get some great 90s villainy there. It's Bob Gunton, who was the warden in Shawshank Redemption. So as soon as you see him, you're like, oh, that guy. Something's wrong.
Right. Okay, yeah, I knew I recognized him from somewhere, but yeah, that's it, Shawshank.
Hide your Raquel Welch posters.
Yeah, he's just unlikable on sight, like you said. He's just that terrible 90s villain. But again, there's no empathy for him here like there might be in Shawshank. He's just annoying through and through.
I had no empathy for him in Shawshank either, but
No.
I should go back and rewatch it to see if I do. But
I think he was more of a human character, at least there. Here he's just kind of like a whining...
A whining rich guy.
A whining rich guy. Yeah,
I'm giving you all this money. Do what I say.
Right.
That's pretty much his role in a nutshell.
We get this back and forth between Travolta up in the cockpit with Slater. And, all these early scenes really just help establish Travolta and Slater's character. But definitely Travolta, I feel like you're getting to know more and more like his motivation and ego. So, Slater has this great line where he's like, no, what's your problem? And Travolta says, I'm always right. Slater says, you think you're always right. Travolta's like, oh, that's real deep or whatever. But I mean, that's so true. And I mean, I think Travolta in this movie makes such a great villain because even though he's really over the top, especially, later on, here they really make him believable and understand his motivation. Like he's been passed up for promotion after promotion.
And you're given why he's been passed up, which he's such a prideful, arrogant guy that he just can't stand someone being above him trying to tell him anything. He pushes back against authority so much that he can't become that authority figure that he craves to be.
Right. Yeah, I feel like a lot of other 90s movies especially would just kind of throw in a schlocky, evil, maniac villain. But here we really do get some backstory, some motivation, and some understanding of his character that gives you a picture of why he kind of goes off the deep end and just becomes insane, So I thought it was a really great turn for him as a villain. And apparently he read the script and they had offered him the Christian Slater part, the good guy part. And he read the script and thought, no, I'm more interested in this major who goes off the deep end. He's got the buzz cut and he becomes this, maniac villain. So I think that's pretty cool, for him to have been offered the good guy part and then say, no, I'm more interested in that. Obviously, I think it worked out in the long run. The best choice for sure.
Yeah, I think he had realized what his strengths were that decade. Go bad.
Go bad, yeah.
Also, are you familiar with the writer of this film who wrote all these great one-liners in this character? Graham Yost.
Yeah.
He did Justified, which I think is one of the best shows of the 2010s, and there's a ton of great dialogue in that show. Of course, it's based on Elmore Leonard's character, Raylan Givens, played awesomely by Timothy Oliphant, but only the first episode is directly based off of an Elmore Leonard story. Actually, I think they bring in some more material later, but Yost had to write a lot of dialogue in that style, and it's just brilliant. It's a brilliant show. He also executive produced The Americans. He's just done a lot of great work after this in television.
You know, one thing he did before this that I've talked about before, I highly admire, that I rewatched not too long ago. Speed.
Yes, he wrote Speed.
He was the writer for Speed, man. And yeah, once Speed was a great success, then that really, I think, made this script for Broken Arrow a hot commodity. So
he wrote I'm Taller.
I'm Taller. That's right, man.
Graham Yost original.
Great one-liners.
I'm assuming Keanu didn't improv that. I mean, or Dennis Hopper didn't whisper it in his ear. Say I'm taller after my head gets knocked off.
Right. No, it was all Graham
It'll be great,
Yost.
kid. It'll be great. Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Hopper.
Yes, Mr. Hopper, don't kill me. This is all just really great stuff. I think at the beginning of this movie, we were introduced to Samantha Mathis's character. She's a park ranger. She's alerted to go look for some suspicious vehicles out in the park. And, because one of the bad guys was dressed as a park ranger, so she's kind of been tipped off about that. So I feel like they just do a great job of editing here at the beginning, just kind of introducing all these characters and kind of setting up the conflict. So,
yes, and of course, right before this, she was in Film Shake non-favorite Super Mario Brothers. So I remember watching this and seeing her and saying, "Oh no, Super Mario Brothers, this is gonna be bad." But then Broken Arrow happened, and I forgot about Super Mario Brothers, the movie.
As you should.
Yes.
Yeah, she's great. I love her. As soon as I remembered that she was in this, I was psyched. So I really enjoy seeing her in anything. I think she's a great actress.
Yeah, I enjoyed her in. She was in The Strain, which I think was probably one of the biggest waste of talent in the last decade as far as TV shows go, because you get a great villain, a really scary, freaky monster, and some really good actors in the show. And she plays the mayor of Red Hook, New York. I think her name was Geraldine Ferraro, and kick-ass mayor. She was awesome. Unfortunately, the show didn't really serve the characters or plot or monsters or anything well in the long run. But she was great in that, too, so I'm glad she's still working. And she tricked me here, too. I'm thinking like Point Break, all our actors in that movie, Keanu, Patrick Swayze, Lori Petty, yeah, they're all from, the Midwest, and they went out to California to make it big, and they're in this movie as all these outsiders. And Samantha Mathis fooled me, because I thought, oh, well, she must be like some Midwestern person here, too. She's doing such a great job at just being like, this wide-eyed park ranger who seems like, like she grew up in the country, and I was wrong. She's from New York, grew up in L.A., and her mom was a famous actress. She was in Wrath of Khan.
Nice.
Yeah, she fooled me. Christian Slater, too. His mom was an acting agent, and then Travolta, his mom was in a singing group, so all the actors here, I had that same feel, that Point Break outsider feel, but they all fooled me. They're all insiders.
I didn't remember she was in American Psycho.
Yeah, that's right.
As well. I probably haven't watched that since 2000 when it came out. Not one I look forward to revisiting ever.
I was going to pull that at some point, and then I realized I don't think it's eligible, right? It is 2000, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 2000. But yeah, so we move on and we get the cockpit fight between Travolta and Slater, which is great. You get that great shot where Slater sees in the reflection of the cockpit Travolta's about to pull the gun on him, tries to distract him, and then they have this fight in the plane as they're flying over these canyons, and there's these ridges that they're almost hitting with this bomber. And then finally Travolta ejects him from the plane. We see his parachute, so we know he's all right. And then an important detail I think we should mention is that it looks like Travolta is trying to drop the unarmed nukes into the canyon area down there in Utah. And so he finally, ejects Christian Slater, drops the nukes, and then he gets on the radio before he ejects himself. Radio's back to base saying, Hale or Slater has gone rogue. He's lost it. I'm bailing out. Kind of puts the blame on Slater's character for what's gone on. And the military is just kind of at a loss for most of the film, trying to figure out what had happened. I thought, again, that was a great setup, because even though we know what's happening, the fact that the military gets that message from him and he's deceived them a little bit and they're still kind of one step behind, that creates like another level of suspense for me watching it. I'm rooting for the good guy. It's like his name has been sullied, and now I'm waiting for the government to catch up and figure things out and figure out that Travolta is really the bad guy and, like, you know, what Travolta is really doing here. And we still haven't really gotten the full scope of his plan yet either. So
yeah. And when they're fighting and all this stuff is happening, we get this awesome suspenseful music from Hans Zimmer, which I just want to tout this soundtrack. Oh, yeah. Hans Zimmer,
yeah, it's a great score.
It's so good, and he's, you know, even at the time, really a few years later, he started to get kind of a bad rap. He formed this Media Ventures company, which kind of got the reputation as like a rent-a-composer thing, where a lot of the soundtracks kind of ran together. But this is kind of the start of Media Ventures, where he's using a synth as his main instrument, and then he's got a percussionist, trombone player, a trumpeter, and 3 guitar players, one of which is Dwayne Eddy. So playing this awesome guitar riff. But I know this because I bought the soundtrack from La La Land. I'm going to plug them again. Thanks, La La Land, for the retweet the other day. We love you. And the soundtrack's awesome. It's 2 discs, and I've listened to it about 18 times since we decided we were going to watch this movie.
That's awesome.
But it's so good, man.
Yeah, I definitely paid attention to the score this time, just, you know, remembering how much of a score buff you are. And that it's Hans Zimmer, you know, but it really is a great score. It's a great action score. So, and it's got, you know, these subtle parts to it too that aren't always bombastic. Like you said, there's little guitar riffs and stuff, but yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, it's got a lot of melody in it compared to some of his later work, especially. And he's got all these little motifs, and everyone's got a little theme. And then you have Dwayne Eddy playing this cool guitar lick, which I'm not going to atonally try to repeat here, but you hear it once and you can recognize it for the rest of your life. It's awesome.
Right. Well, we got the, like you talked about, the stealth bomber, this little model work crashing into the ridge and this big explosion. Again, it's John Woo, so we just have like the biggest explosions possible here. We'll talk about this later on too, but they really don't make this kind of explosion in movies anymore. Just these giant fireballs fluming up into the sky.
You can't CGI awesome. 100,000 gallons of gasoline exploding.
Right.
It just,
and I'm sure
it can't get
I'm sure that's
effect.
how much they used here.
Oh yeah, you can feel the heat.
Ain't it cool? That I wanted to say that right then and there. I know it's too early for that, but it's just like, ain't it cool, man? This is gonna be awesome. And we're only 18 minutes in.
How many more things can they explode? A lot.
Oh, a lot. Yeah, actually, it turns out a lot. So then we move on, and we're in the conference room with some of the military officials. And hey, it's that guy from that 70s show. It's Red. I don't remember the actor's name. Do you know?
Kurtwood Smith.
It's
Kurtwood Smith.
Hey, it's Kurtwood Smith.
Yeah.
And he's awesome. He's got that same Red persona here, where he's, you know, they hand him like a memo that they've written up about the explosion. He's like, that's very nice bullshit, Rick. We'll go with that. Well, thank you, sir.
It's great. We have so many Sunday Night Fox actors in this, because we also have Daniel Von Bargen. He was in Malcolm in the Middle. He was the guy with the little hook hand that orders Francis around. So I think this is a 20th Century Fox film. So they're raiding the cupboard here for actors, which I'm fine with. I love these guys.
Got this this character Giles, the young whippersnapper. I guess he has a minor role here where he's saying, no, we just need to tell the truth about what happened because this is going to come out and we're going to look like idiots. So, but I guess the whole point of this scene is so that we get the term broken arrow. They explain it to us. For those who don't know, it's really, you know, for the audience, obviously. And they say in the film that the term broken arrow is for when there's a loss of a nuclear weapon. But I love that looking at the trivia for this, that's actually not like the correct military term for it. The loss of a nuclear weapon would actually be a quote unquote empty quiver, but I guess that doesn't sound as cool for a movie title. But a broken arrow is actually technically a U.S. nuclear weapon accident that does not create the risk of a nuclear war. So that doesn't quite sound as cool. You know, they just kind of change the definition, swap out some terms there, but hey.
I don't think you have to focus group that broken quiver does not sound as cool as broken arrow or whatever it was. What was the quiver one?
Empty
See, I forgot
quiver.
it already. It's just not good.
Right.
It's no good, man.
Not as cool. Yeah, as soon as you hear Broken Arrow, it's like, oh, that sounds awesome.
The Slatesters in that, I'm there.
Oh, I'm right. Exactly. Travolta's a villain? Come on. I just think the script for this is really smart, though. Even these kind of throwaway scenes with these government lackeys and stuff, like I said, that line that Red from that 70s show has there is great. And yeah, they kind of just fill us in on some of this suspense. The government's just kind of one step behind Travolta the whole time.
And I love that, again, like the insularity of the movie, where I just mean by that, there's sort of a closed-in feeling where all of the inside scenes are basically Pentagon interior shots where everything's kind of this cold blue, just really deep, cavernous lighting. And then our heroes are, and our villains are out in the West, and it's this very expansive view, but it's still very intimate where there's never like a ton of people involved. They're all kind of out there in the middle of nowhere. So there's sort of this closed-in feeling, and I mean that in a very positive way. Like, this feels like a very self-contained world that this movie creates, where it's like the world of Broken Arrow, which I love.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that too.
And the score enhances it too, of course.
Yeah, because you never really get any population shots where they're like in a city with a bunch of people or anything. So I think that definitely creates that too.
Love that, because can you imagine a Michael, for one thing, a Michael Bay Broken Arrow is not going to have any of the grace of a John Woo movie in the action scenes, and there's going to be 8 billion cuts instead of cool stuff just happening within the frame.
Right.
But can you imagine the stupid crowd shots you'd be getting to like build up your sympathy at the end, like all of these people will die if Christian Slater does not succeed, and you don't care. That's not why you're watching the movie.
Oh man.
This isn't supposed to be that kind of movie. You just want to see Slater and Travolta face off. You don't care about the schmaltzy music and the
like
schmaltzy
in
crowd
Godzilla,
shots.
right?
Exactly.
Same
you don't
thing.
care. You don't care about the New Yorkers. The movie hasn't focused on them in any way or done anything to make you care about the population.
Yeah.
Like, why try to hallmark it up now at the end?
Yeah, I'd say they really succeed, and not, I guess, the population really isn't on your mind in this movie, but one thing that this movie gets right that Godzilla failed at is establishing character and making you care about those characters. So even if the whole world is about to die from this nuclear blast, we're really zoned in on Christian Slater and Samantha Mathis. So, the fact that they're right there next to that bomb, that's what you're worried about. You're worried about them escaping and getting out of the blast area. You're not worried about, Denver's going to get blown up at the end or whatever.
No, not Denver.
Not Denver. Oh, no. Cultural mecca.
We have listeners in Denver. I love Denver. It's great. I just mean the generic Denver of a movie of this sort.
A movie Denver, yeah.
Not the actual Denver.
Not
lovely
the actual,
town.
Lovely place. No, I mean, you do care. Obviously, you don't want Travolta to win and blow up the whole Midwest or whatever. But
it's the characters you care about.
Right, yeah. That's what this movie succeeds at, I think.
Yes. So we get Christian Slater and Samantha Mathis meeting up after he's been ejected. We get this really sweet shot of him drifting on the desert floor because his parachute's caught the wind. It's so awesome.
I'm glad you caught that. That's like one of my favorite shots. That was great. He's just kind of knocked out for a minute there, drifting with his parachute. He's like on this kind of slope out there, like in the desert with these ridges and stuff. Yeah, it's just great.
Yeah, and I've got to say, this movie didn't get the best reviews at the time, but I really think critics then were not giving this its due. You don't get that kind of beauty in an action movie like this now, not in the same way. And I think stuff like that they just overlooked, like, this is dumb, brainless action, and didn't realize there's a lot more nuance to this. I mean, it's not like the greatest film, but it's a very, very fun, well thought out, well put together action movie. And it's got a ton of moments like that you're going to remember later or notice on rewatch and get more enjoyment from. I like Broken Arrow, man. It's a pretty good movie.
Pretty good stuff. Yeah. I love how he takes the $20 and he puts it under the rock, and he's basically saying, all right, you won that round. The repetition too, like you said, the motifs, not just in the score, but how in the script, you keep getting these recurring images and these things that kind of play off what they meant earlier in the film. They come back and they're used in a different way, or you're just reminded of them. So it creates like this theme, and I don't know, like you said, it's a lot more graceful, and it's a lot smarter than your average big dumb action flick, which, in the end, it is just kind of a big dumb shoot 'em up, lots of explosions.
Oh yeah, most
type
definitely.
Of movie. But there's a higher level here going on. I think there's it's just really well put together.
Yeah, even just as far as themes go, you kind of have this brothers thing between, with Slater being the good brother, the good younger brother, and Travolta being the bad older brother. But also there's kind of this partner thing where they were partners, and Travolta leaves Christian Slater partnerless, because he's gone bad, and that's not what Slater wants to do. He just thinks being in the military and flying jets is really cool. And he's kind of like the white knight, and he gets a new partner in Mathis. I like the pairing up nature of it because, there's chemistry between the two of them. But something I really liked about this is they're not like making out 30 minutes later. They actually, they never kiss in the movie at all, which we'll get to when they reunite at the end of the movie. When we get to the end of this,
we can talk about that. I really enjoyed that aspect too, that there was some chemistry there, and there's some underlying romantic tension and stuff at times.
And these two have been in movies before. They did Pump Up the Volume together. They were in Fern Gully, so I think this is their third time out. So these two actors know each other pretty well by this point.
And apparently they used to date before this too, which I read a piece of trivia that said Samantha Mathis, they had dated before, but when the trivia said they had kissed at some point, and that she said that felt like for the filming of the movie, but that felt like kissing her brother. But I was like, wait a minute, they never kiss. I guess, I don't know if they cut that out or... Yeah. Anyway, I did really enjoy the aspect of their partnership. It wasn't overtly romantic and never really went there all the way. You don't see that very often, especially in this time period with movies. So
the male and female leads just get together because they do. The end. And that's not what happens here at all.
We've gone through this great trial and tribulation, so we've been kind of brought together to make out right at the end of the movie, which I can't lie, I wanted to see the make out right.
Like Tremors, right? Like
exactly. Yeah, I was kind of hoping for that, make out right as the credits roll kind of moment, but
I like that it's like now he has the partner that he should have always had, and Samantha Mathis has a partner now too. I don't know, I like that.
I like that. We can definitely get more into the details there once we get to the end.
Whenever Slater and Travolta talk right after this, Slater tells him, the friendship's over, man.
Right.
Which I really loved. And then Travolta says, well, that doesn't mean that I don't still like you.
Right. Great line. No, he puts the $20 under the rock, and then in my notes I just said, this is my favorite movie, laughing out loud. I really love this movie.
I will watch this again a lot of times. I actually hadn't watched it for more than 20 years. I got this on VHS from Columbia House after I think my brother and I originally rented this from Blockbuster and then drove it back out to Poincaré Parish. We watched it so many times, and it was so awesome. I think when Face Off came out, I kind of forgot about Broken Arrow just because Face Off was just such a magnum opus for John Woo as far as his American career went.
Yeah.
And, I got into his Hong Kong films with Hard Boiled being a favorite, and I like The Killer, and a lot of the other movies. And I kind of just forgot about Broken Arrow, which I don't know why. That was a horrible idea. I should have remembered it along with all the other movies.
See, I remember not liking Face Off as much, and I remember it getting a lot more credibility and better reviews and stuff. So that might have helped me out with my underdog rooting for the Christian Slater film, saying like, no, Broken Arrow was better, But I'll have to...
The Slater's not in this one.
That's right. I'm disappointed.
Someone out there is like, would that idiot stop saying Slater?
I'll need to rewatch Face Off at some point, or we can do it for the show at some point.
It's got those deeper identity themes that just thematically it's got more depth than this. But, that doesn't mean it's a more fun movie. I don't think it is as fun as Broken Arrow. I think it's probably just a better movie as far as just the quality of the film. but I would not say it's a more fun movie than Broken Arrow.
I don't know. I have to revisit and see how I feel. Like I said, I remember not really being into it, but I can't really say why. So
I had a poster on my wall. It was the awesome mirror shot from that film with Travolta and Cage, and it was in black and white. I got it at one of those college poster sales that LSU always did. And I've still got it, actually. It's not on the wall anymore, but it's in the closet in a tube.
Sweet.
But at some point, my wife is going to wake up and she's going to see Travolta and Nicolas Cage on our bedroom wall.
What is that doing there? Man. So we have the fight with Mathis where, she's trying to arrest Slater in the desert. And you got this great gun versus knife fight where they're kind of rolling down this hill. And how many times are they rolling down hills in this movie? It's pretty ridiculous. Slater, I love the shot where they roll down the hill and then they both kind of whip out the gun and the knife and they have it at each other's, neck and face. They just got this kind of standoff. It's pretty great. Just seeing Mathis versus Slater right there for a moment. Of course, they move on from that. He eventually gets her to trust him.
Even though they do not exchange names, which I'd never noticed until the end of the movie.
Yeah, I didn't notice that either until the very end. Because he's kind of hush-hush about like who he is or what he's doing, I guess, at first. I can't tell you anything, but I need you to come with me. And she's like, well, how can I trust you? You got a gun pointed at me, and he hands it over to her, so gets her to trust her. Again, all that stuff right there is pretty smart stuff in the script. I thought that was fun. And yeah, so you've got the nukes in the gorge. Got this, this Air Force team coming in to retrieve the nukes that, have been deployed. They've tracked them down. But Travolta is one step ahead, of course. He's got a guy on the inside of the team, so he quickly takes out the chief, who had suggested, he's going to throw the grenades in the nuke. He says, they won't go nuclear, but they'll destroy the bomb, trying to make sure the thieves don't get it. Then you've got this soldier, we'll refer to him as Kelly.
It's Howie Long, man. Howie Long was going to be an acting megastar. He played in the NFL for 13 years for the Oakland Raiders. He was a great NFL player, but that wasn't enough. He wanted Hollywood fame and glory. And, well, he got to be in this movie. He was also in another movie. Oh, I'm blanking out on the name. It's got fire in it. He played a fireman. It wasn't a good movie. It didn't launch him into acting stardom, but he's fine in this movie.
Yeah, he's fine in this, and he was going to have a smaller role. The studio executives liked him, so they kind of gave him more screen time in the end. But yeah, he's the mole in the squadron, or I don't know, unit. I don't know any military terms, so forgive me, people who do. He takes out the chief and they get the nuke back and everything. So then we got this great helicopter fight. They send the helicopter with some of the mercenaries after Slater, and he's got Mathis with him, and so he senses the helicopter coming, and then they have to kind of jump off this ridge, and again they're kind of rolling down some more desert terrain into the canyon, and then he shoots down the pilot with Mathis's gun. Helicopter almost comes down on Mathis, and the propeller is coming after her. Of course, Slater comes in with a rescue and saves her from being chopped up by the propeller, and then there's this big explosion with the helicopter blowing up, and it just looks awesome. And I think this movie rules. So that's all I have to say.
I love the sound of Christian Slater's Magnum service pistol, like he's firing a cannon, and it does about the same damage as a cannon because it goes right through that helicopter glass and blows the pilot's head off. It's so awesome. And then you've got the awesome woo-ness of it. And that it doesn't just crash. Both blades from the helicopter, the rotor blade and the top blade, that are the rotor blade. I just made that up. I don't know what that means.
You sounded like you knew what you're talking about. I was like, man, he knows his helicopters.
That's right. Studied them for years at McNamara. I don't know what McNamara is either. I just made that up.
I mean, I know a lot more about helicopters after watching this movie because I get to see like 5 of them blow up. So.
They blow up so many. And this is my favorite one because Samantha Mathis almost gets killed by the top blade of the helicopter as it's crashing. She gets out of that, and then the tail blade comes down as it flips over and almost gets her too. And this is, just foreshadowing because helicopter blades keep almost hitting people. And then one finally connects, which I can't wait to talk about. But
right.
Christian Slater pulls her out of harm's way at the last second, and the helicopter, first of many, gets destroyed. And they get away, and they go for the nuke that Christian Slater has, or I say nuke nukes. We've got 2 nuclear weapons.
Got 2
for
nukes.
now.
Yeah.
They go to a mine thinking this would be a good place to hide the nukes, but turns out Travolta's already been there, and this is all part of his plan.
Well, they first got to hijack his Humvee,
did I just...
right?
I just skipped the awesome Humvee chase scene.
They jump on top of one of the Humvees that's carrying the nukes, and Travolta's behind them. You got this great line where I think was it Major Kelly, Howie Long? We'll just say Howie Long. Howie Long keeps shooting at the Humvee that's carrying the nukes. Travolta has to keep reminding everybody, would you mind not shooting at the thermonuclear weapons? I love how he grits his teeth like so many times through this movie. He's just clenching his jaw.
And loving it.
Eating up the scenery. He's just clenching his jaw so he doesn't actually eat the scenery.
And this is our Raiders of the Lost Ark nod here. We get a line with Christian Slater where he kind of mirrors Harrison Ford's, I don't know, I'm making this up as I go along line. He steals the truck in that incredible chase scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I think is probably the best chase scene of all time, before they take off to try to get one of these trucks. And we get another nod when he gets drugged behind the truck. And it's not as long or as intensive as that scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark, because it's just 2 Humvees and a small group of people. But they steal one of the trucks, and Howie Long, as you said, starts shooting at it, but the nuclear weapons are also inside.
Well, then what does Christian Slater do? He grabs a gas can, duct tapes a flare to it, which is just badass. He lights the flare and throws it at the other Humvee, and then it just explodes in a ball of fire, which again looks awesome. Samantha Mathis is just like, where did you learn that in cadet school? And he's like, nah, I learned it in New Jersey, Trenton, New Jersey.
Ironically, where Travolta is from in real life.
Oh, snap. I wonder if that was put in there on purpose as like a little nod.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple other nods like back and forth to the different actors that we get. But yeah, we should talk about this copper mine scene, which is, I think, the most memorable part for me growing up with this movie and thinking back about it. Once we get to that great scene, you know, they got the nukes. They're going to try and put them down into the mine and hide him from Travolta's character. He's radioing back and forth saying that Slater's tried to disarm the nukes, make them disabled, where he just kind of short circuits them. But Travolta has thought one step ahead, so he's actually tricked Slater into arming the nukes. But now Slater's going to drop them in the mine. So it's just this clever back and forth. Again, just the stakes on both sides, with Slater and Mathis trying to bring these nukes down to the bottom of the mine and get out of there before Travolta gets there. And then Travolta freaking out that he's going to blow up both nukes now, because he only wants to blow up one to prove a point, but he wants to have the other one so he can, I guess, blackmail the government into giving them lots of money. But yeah, I just love the character dynamics here and this whole former buddies going at each other thing. They do a great job of it.
Yes, and I like that the whole deal when they're fighting earlier is that we hear about the rope-a-dope, which is of course the famous boxing term where Muhammad Ali went onto the ropes and got George Foreman to just tire himself off punching Ali, and Ali was letting the ropes take all of the force of the punches and just letting Foreman tire himself out before he just pounded away at Foreman, and Foreman was exhausted and fell down. I'm a pretty big boxing fan, but, you know, not everybody is. But they explain the term pretty well, and
right.
We get a literal rope-a-dope scene at the end of the movie, which I can't wait to talk about. But
can't wait to talk about so many things.
Yes, but Christian Slater, this is going to be our longest episode. I think we're going to pass Wild Wild West.
Probably.
Which we should. Should that be our longest episode? I don't know.
Really? Come on. Yeah.
Our longest non-bonus episode. But we get a lot of Christian Slater thinking ahead to things that Travolta hasn't thought of, and Travolta being impressed by it, but then also thinking things that Travolta has already thought of, and it's like a little chess match between these two guys.
Right, yeah. Well, the fight in the mines, which is great, so Travolta shows up before Slater and them are able to get out of there, so he secures one of the nukes. And then we've just got this great fight down in the mines. Some of the mercenaries just, you know, with the automatic weapons just going after the heroes. We've got grenades. We've got the timer on the nuke. Travolta sets it to 13 minutes instead of 30, so you got even less time to get out of there.
Hans Zimmer music cranked.
Right. It's just great. Yeah, and the whole atmosphere in this dusty, dirty copper mine, and you know, you never know who's around the corner that's gonna just blow you up with a grenade or shoot you in the face. It's John Woo. I mean, it's awesome.
Oh yeah, it's so good, man. Eventually, Travolta gets the upper hand. The bomb is going to go off. All that Christian Slater can do is try to get out of there with Mathis, because Slater and Howie Long have gotten away with the other nuke.
You mean Travolta?
Oh, I misused the Slatester. I must repent.
You must repent. Get out of here.
They get away with the nuke, but Samantha Mathis knows there's an old river under the mines, and that's why the mines shut down, because they accidentally tapped into the river. Again, the stunt people rolling around in this movie, really, I hope they paid them well, because they fall through a trap door while they're looking for the river, and there's a shot of the two stunt people. It's great stunt work, and it's not like it looks bad, like, oh, clearly those are stunt people, but I mean, obviously, Slater or Mathis didn't do this. They fall down and...
Oh, let me stop you right there, my friend, and you must repent once more. Because Slater did all his own stunts for this movie.
There's no way. So that was him bouncing off the rocks and going into the water?
That's what I read. It says he did almost all his own stunts, or all his stunts. I don't know, but the majority of the stunts done in this movie for his character are done by Slater. I can't tell you which ones are him and which ones aren't, but it sounds like he did most of them, if not all.
Man, kudos to him if he did that stunt, because they violently roll down some rocks into this underground river. Really cool scene. The bomb is about to go off, but thankfully we get more beautiful shots of the American West. And actually, I've been out in this area. We went on a family trip in my favorite year, 1999, the same year that Wild Wild West came out, which is the only blemish on that entire year.
Right.
And we were going to just go to the Grand Canyon, but I convinced my dad to drive us all the way to the Pacific. So then we spent some time in Southern California. Nice. And then on the way back, we went to the Grand Canyon. And then my mom had the idea to go to Lake Powell, because I think she saw some pictures of how pretty it was. So we ended up going to the Glen Canyon Dam and all this cool stuff. So all the river locations I've actually been to, I took some pictures, actually. We get, though, all this really beautiful, beautiful scenery of them washing up in the river right before the bomb is going to go off. They're outside, and then we're about to get our next helicopter explosion. I'll let you set it up, because it's even better. It might be better than the first one. Even though I said the first was the best, I think the second one's pretty cool, too.
Well, this just cements Travolta's character as gone off the deep end insane here. He gets to really just turn it up full throttle. Especially, he's got the whining rich financier next to him complaining about everything going wrong, and he just whacks him in the windpipe with a pipe or something. He just straight up kills him. And then he goes, hush, hush, after he's killed him and he's dead.
And he blows smoke in his face since the guy was critical of his cigarette smoking earlier.
Because he's always smoking, like, in every moment. And I know he holds his cigarette in even an over-top manner. I don't know, it's Travolta doing Travolta.
He's like a French artiste.
Right. It's probably what his character is thinking. And he has this creepy line where he's like, I just remembered that I've actually never killed anyone before. I mean, I've dropped bombs on Baghdad, but I don't really see what the big deal is. You know, and but again, for an action movie to take that, it's just kind of like this reflective beat where he's just killed somebody and then he's reflecting on having killed him.
Oh, and there's a recurring thing there, too, where the guy, again, was berating him. And basically, anytime someone tells him that he's crazy or he doesn't measure up, he's so prideful.
He just flips out.
Yes, he always acts out. And it's a through line through the movie, which I thought was great, too.
And it totally just makes his character believable. You know, even though he's just this over-the-top, insane villain, it grounds him in some reality, like some of the human nature that he exhibits there. It's just like, okay, wow, this is very interesting just for this big blow-em-up action movie, for him to step back and have this reflective moment that sounds really creepy, but like believable at the same time. So
yeah, it just adds so many more layers to his character.
And then so many more layers to these explosions, too, because you get the underground explosion of the nuke, and then you get this electromagnetic pulse. So there's a chopper that comes and it's trying to stop Travolta from proceeding with the nukes. Him and Kelly have to stop their Humvee, and they're telling them to put down their weapons and come out. And of course, Travolta's just chilling, smoking. He's just waiting. And then boom, nuke goes off. There's the electromagnetic pulse, and it takes out this chopper because everything electronic is just jacked up right now. So the chopper just explodes, hits the ground and explodes, and it's just plain awesome.
So much gasoline.
It's just great. Yeah, dude. So we get the underground explosion with the nuke creating the crater too. That looked really great. Like you said, the beautiful shots with Slater and Mathis coming out of the water, and then she's kind of shaking, freaking out, and you get a little of that romance there, a little chemistry where he's rubbing on her, trying to keep her warm, and tells her that, oh, you see those butterflies over there? Instruction manual for detonation says if you see butterflies after nuclear blast, then there's no radiation there. She's like, oh, you're full of crap. But you get a little, not romantic, but a little touching moment there between them.
A little spark.
A little spark for sure. You're wondering, where is this gonna go?
Yeah, so they get away. Everyone gets away, but Travolta and Howie Long have the nukes, and they meet up with some other guys at the river, at the boat. At the boat, the boat.
The boat, yeah.
But Christian Slater and Samantha Mathis catch up. They get into the boat secretly, but when Travolta and his new buddies come along, Christian Slater jumps out of the boat. Samantha Mathis decides, I'm going to stay in here and just cover myself with some blankets. And the boat takes off with her in it. And Slater gets picked up by the military, and he gets to meet back with them. And he finally gets to meet up with Delroy Lindo, a 90s all-star. Love that guy. I mean, he's done cool stuff since then. But I always think of him in roles like this in the 90s where you just see him and you're like, I like this guy.
Right.
I don't know why.
Immediately.
I hope he's a good guy in this movie because I can't pull against him.
Yeah. He's immediately likable. Yeah.
Yeah. And we get the scene with him and the little character that really doesn't have to be in the movie from DC, whose name I already forgot. I think he was played by Frank Whaley from Pulp Fiction, where he's kind of the guy that's like, I think this is really happening in Washington, D.C. And they're like, oh, you're a smart little go-getter. Why don't you go out there and tell them that? So he's there with Delroy Lindo and Christian Slater. Well,
Giles. Yeah, you're talking about Giles.
Yeah, Giles. That's right. Not as good as Giles from Buffy. He's okay. Maybe really the only element of the film that I thought was extraneous, just because he doesn't do a whole lot and he kind of disappears in the final act. Actually, there's an analog to him in Con Air, which we're definitely going to do at some point.
Oh, John Cusack?
Yeah, he's kind of like that, but way, way less active in the movie than even that.
That's so funny that you said that, because I was having the same exact thought. I was like, oh, he kind of reminds me of the John Cusack character in Con Air.
Exactly. They finally unite, and Delroy Lindo decides that even though he's been ordered to do some other things and abandon Samantha Mathis' character, who's stuck with Travolta on a train, we find out that's going toward Denver, everyone else, including the military, thinks the train is going west in the other direction and not east. But Lindo listens to Christian Slater. He says, we don't leave anyone behind, and I can't leave Samantha Mathis behind. Delroy Lindo says, you know what? I like you, Slatester, and let's do what you want to do.
I like how much Slater gets in Lindo's face there, because obviously he outranks him as a character. And, he just gets in his face, and you can see his concern about Mathis's character. And he just really puts in a good performance there. The writing, the acting there is really great, as he's just really pleading the case to save this woman that he brought in to this whole deal. It is kind of like not cheesy, but it's kind of your classic turn on the head where Lindo's like, do you know anything about following orders? Because I'm about to break some. Just that kind of like, oh, snap,
But it pays off because Slater's right. So it's not just that he's going to save Samantha Mathis. Since his guess that the train is going toward Denver was correct, now he can save Denver, which we've already said we really care about the real life Denver.
Yes,
but thankfully we don't get sudden cuts to the city of Denver and kids playing in a park.
Right.
We cut to them storming the train by a helicopter.
Oh.
You see a helicopter in this movie, you know it's going to happen to it.
Oh, yes. Yes, you can already anticipate the explosion. You also get Mathis taking out that dude with the hammer. She creeps up on the quote-unquote computer nerd who says he's also a Navy SEAL.
This is my favorite quote in the entire movie, and this is a total Graham Yost thing right here.
Oh, yes.
So he does just look like a nerdy guy. He's kind of in loose-fitting clothing, but as soon as she tries to attack him, he quickly overpowers her and says, "We haven't met. I'm Matt." Which you think maybe you're going to get more backstory from him.
Nope.
He says this creepy line about what he could do with his thumbs, but she grabs the hammer off the ground that has landed next to her and throws it and hits him in the forehead with it. And he immediately dies after saying that line, which I loved.
Right. And probably one of my next favorite lines is, so she takes him out and she's trying to deactivate the nuke. Travolta creeps up on her, puts the gun to her face. And he's like, "You just saved me $3 million. I owe you one." And then she quips back, "Shoot yourself. We'll call it square." Love it.
You got the diction perfect there.
Right.
She says it exactly
we'll
like
call
that.
it square. Yeah.
She has such a great 90s presence.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Just the tone of her voice. You don't get that anymore. I don't know what it is. That's why we do the show. You know, the 90s was the best decade. You're not going to get a broken arrow in the 2020s unless things just suddenly start being awesome again, which I'm not foreseeing, but I mean, who knows? It could happen. She's standing up to Travolta. He tries to get her to set the bomb.
Oh, the creepiest moment with Travolta and her, man. Where he's all up on her neck and yeah, he's got his gun like all over her, and I don't know, it's really creepy. Making her push the buttons. It's like, you're pushing my buttons, man. You can get out of here.
Yeah, he basically wants to see if she has any backbone, which she definitely does and has already proven to the audience, but she proves it to him by saying, "Do it yourself. I'm not gonna start the timer on this bomb."
Interesting play there too, where Travolta's always talking about how Slater's character would fold. He wouldn't stand up. He wouldn't eat a bullet before he would help him set the bomb or whatever. But she's almost like a stand-in for Slater there in a way. We kind of equate the two with each other at this point.
She's the partner he always needed.
That's right. But yeah, she stands up to him and then he's about to throw her off the train when Slater shows up on the helicopter.
Oh, yeah, with Delroy and a machine gun and some nameless pilot who bites it in a little while.
Right.
Because he made the mistake of flying a helicopter in this movie. Big mistake.
Exactly, yeah. You don't want to get in a helicopter in this movie. But thankfully, Slater gets out of the helicopter, jumps onto the train to save Samantha Mathis again. And then we get the great shot of the helicopter blade taking out the bad guy on the top of the train.
Finally, it hits someone.
Just
and
cutting up his chest all full of red meat there. Yeah, it's so good.
Red meat. I
So
liked
good.
how you said that. That's what it looks like. Like you bought it right out the Island and Dixie, man.
Unfortunately, Lindo bites the dust with the nameless pilot. You know, they go into a tunnel. Lindo gets shot down. I don't know what the pilot was doing. He wasn't thinking.
Oh, well, okay. So Howie Long is shooting at him. And again, I thought this was a pretty cool stunt. I don't know how they shot it. So he's shooting at the helicopter and he successfully makes it crash. But when they go in the tunnel, he's holding the gun out and it gets knocked out of his hand by the stone mountain wall. That would like take someone's arm off. It does hurt him. I don't know how they shot that. I thought that was just a cool little moment to show that happen with a real guy holding the gun and it getting knocked out of his hand. But now Slater thankfully got on the train before the helicopter got exploded. So now we've got he and Mathis free on the train against a lot more bad guys because Travolta's picked up the rest of his crew, which is great, right? We need a lot of cannon fodder. We have this big, giant final action sequence on the train. It's probably about 20 minutes long. All of it is glorious. Not a second is wasted on anything that isn't totally awesome.
Oh, no.
But they're on the train now, loose, getting shot at, but also wreaking some mayhem of their own. It's so awesome.
Well, yeah, just when you thought there was just one more helicopter explosion, oh no, make that two.
That's right. There's a getaway chopper on here for Travolta and his crew, and Slater cuts the fuel line on it. And then, if you haven't noticed the theme of helicopters exploding, the pilot gets in there, and all the guys are standing around ready to get away when he notices the fuel line's cut, and it's too late. And we get such a great explosion. Explosion number 4 for the helicopters in this movie.
I don't know how Travolta wasn't just wiped out by the explosion there too, because he was literally probably like 10 feet away, but he jumps out of the
again,
he jumps
great
out of the way.
stunts of guys jumping away.
Right.
So good.
Yeah, it's like, and no matter how close you stand to an explosion in a John Woo movie, if you just jump away and fall on the ground, you'll be all right. Except for if you're a nameless lackey.
In which case you're doomed.
You're doomed.
And so many nameless lackeys get taken out in this action scene.
Oh, yeah.
Chopped up by helicopter blades, thrown off the train. It's awesome.
Run over by the train.
Yes.
You get the great shot of the train running over a guy.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
So good.
So then Travolta kind of goes back and forth between arming the nukes, not arming the nukes, but he decides, I'm going to arm the nukes because pretty much my getaway has been taken out. There's no way I'm going to get all the money I want now. Like, they're going to bring me in. So
he just wants to beat Christian Slater. And to him, setting off the nuke will be a victory.
Right. It's just out of spite, pretty much. Mm-hmm. But he has this fun line where he says, F them if they can't take a joke. And do you know what movie he's referencing there?
No, tell me.
It's actually, and since it does involve this movie and Christian Slater, a previous movie, he was in Heathers from 1988. Apparently that was, I haven't seen that movie in a while. It's been a while. I don't remember the line, but apparently that's the exact same line Slater says in Heathers. Nice little reference to that previous film. But yeah, it's basically like if he can't win, he's going to take them all out. Just really works. Like, I don't want to go on and on about Travolta as a villain here.
Well, it's great. You know, Howie Long and he are the only two left, along with the guy that's driving the train, the conductor up in the front. And it's awesome, too, because Howie Long just keeps telling him, "You're the man," throughout the whole movie, which is all he wants is someone to recognize his brilliance, right?
Oh, yeah. It's just like a little kid who sees like an older kid like blow something up, you know? It's just like, oh, that was awesome,
You killed that ant with a magnifying glass? You're the greatest.
You're the man.
But now
so
he finally isn't thinking.
But now he's like, oh no, I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, he does not want to get blown up by a nuke. And at this point, Slater and Mathis have separated the front of the train with the engine from the back cars with the nuke. Mathis is up front. Christian Slater is in the back. We get our true life representation of the rope-a-dope. It's
right
where he ties a dead body to one end of the rope as a counterweight, throws it over one side of the train so that Howie Long and John Travolta start shooting at that, whereas he's on the other side of the rope and on the other side of the train, and he comes in through that on the rope, kicks Howie Long, and we get this. It is an iconic scream because it's been used in movies after this.
Is it the Willem scream?
It's not the Willem scream. It's the Howie Long scream. It's actually different. Nice. It's a deeper scream. You know, the Wilhelm scream is that, I can't do it. It's something like that, right?
Right.
And Howie Long's is more like, ah! It's great. It's a lot deeper and it's awesome. And he falls off a bridge, by the way. They're over a bridge, which is great because we haven't had a guy fall from a great height and die. So we get another form of death here.
Yeah, we just got to get in every different possibility of death here. And even before, I think it's like right before this scene, I just love the establishing shot of, oh, look, now we're going over a bridge. You know, because we just have to set that up like, oh, now we're going over a bridge. What can happen in this situation?
Yeah, I love it.
A guy can get kicked out of train and fall off bridge.
Yeah, they set everything up, though. Even there's a scene that's great where Mathis and Christian Slater are on the top of the train, where we got a cutaway shot earlier when she takes Matt out, that she gets the gun and puts it.
His name is Max.
Was it Matt? I thought it was Matt.
I thought he said Max. Like, oh, we haven't met yet. I'm Max.
I'm gonna have to check out the subtitles on this scene.
I had the subtitles on.
So he does say Max. I just thought Matt because it's just like, I'm Steve, you know, like I'm Jimmy. Right. Like, you know, Max makes it. It doesn't really ruin it. It's still awesome. I'm still fine with it. So she's got the gun hidden in the back of her pants, and later on, Christian Slater and she get stopped by someone with a gun. And, you know, they say, drop the gun, because he can see Christian Slater has it. So Christian Slater drops the gun. But then he drops down on his knees, grabs the gun from her waist, and then shoots the gun from between her legs and takes the guy out. I don't remember what she says.
She says, wow. And he's like, yeah, that's a first for me, too.
Which in any other movie that we've watched, it wouldn't have worked and we would have probably lambasted it. But for some reason in this movie, it totally works. I was on board.
He plays it so casual and cool, too. Like, he doesn't even use it as a one-liner, like, oh, for the sake of the audience. Yeah. It's just, it's a throwaway line to Slater, but it's like gold nugget for us.
And it's like something they experience together. He's not like, I just fired off my gun between your legs. You know, instead it's like a shared crazy experience that they both had, you know, willingly, because she nods her head toward the gun too, to let him know, like, look at my butt crack, I got a gun there, you know. So it's great.
It's sexual tension going on there, but it had to go through that to survive, you know. It's necessary.
All that to say, Howie Long gets kicked off the train. We get a mano-a-mano fight between John Travolta and Christian Slater. Awesome Hans Zimmer music is going. They're not sparring now. This is a real fight, and the gloves come off for Slater. And they bleed now when they hit each other, which Travolta mentions,
Oh, you're bleeding. Let's see if we can get more out of that.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, and then whenever he's pushing his head against the box, he says, your brain presses against your skull, and it feels like this.
Right. It's a great bookend from the beginning with the boxing match. And to me, you really feel the suspense here because of that setup where we know Travolta has just trashed Slater in the beginning of the film in their boxing match. And now it keeps that up for so long where it just feels like, man, how's Slater ever going to win? Travolta's just besting him so bad in this fist fight. The amount of wooden boxes that they crash through or land on or kick through is insane. I mean, that's just another John Woo staple for me, where it's just
a
like
box
this
train, man.
Yeah, it's just the scenery is being literally torn apart while they fight. It's just great. And then you get this was before they go just mano a mano, because I think for a while they're shooting guns at each other, but you get this great John Woo moment. It reminded me of Hard Boiled, where Slater has the shotgun that I guess he took out of Kelly's hand as he kicked him off the train. He's got a shotgun now, and he's jumping over these boxes as he's shooting the shotgun in slow-mo at Travolta, and it's just awesome. It's just John Woo trademark, like
ballet of violence.
Yes, exactly. I couldn't put it better myself.
Slater is not playing around now. He really does have that killer instinct. He kicks the crap out of Travolta. It's super satisfying, but he has to do it quickly. There's like 4 minutes left on the timer. So he beats Travolta. He gets the timer. It turns out that Mathis killed the train conductor, and then he fell on the brake. So up ahead, the front of the train has stopped. Of course, this is an awesome 90s action movie, so it's full of flammable barrels.
Right.
She jumps off in time because there's also gasoline flowing around, which I guess came out of the barrels from them shooting.
90s to the max.
Yes, but the back of the train is still coming full speed toward the front of the train, which is now stopped and full of flammable stuff. The nuclear warhead is ticking down. Travolta has been kicked to the back of the train. Christian Slater's got the awesome timer that he has to click cancel on. He jumps out of the train and hits cancel with 2 seconds left. The back of the train hits the front of the train. The nuclear warhead, which has been disabled and which we've been told earlier in the movie, if it's disabled, it's harmless. It could sit in burning gasoline for hours and be fine. It, from the momentum, flies through the air backwards. Travolta stands up, looks at the nuke as it's flying toward him, and bows up and smiles.
Right. Oh, it's so good.
It hits him, knocks him through the back of the train, just as the front of the train hits the back of the train, or the back of the train hits the front of the train, and it explodes. And it's like all the gasoline from every single nation in the world that produces it explodes. It's so glorious. All together as the Slater's hitting the ground and rolling away from it.
Oh, man, and huge just balls of fire going up in this explosion, and it's gotta be real. And Slater is right there, like feeling the heat, and he's all beat up from the train fight, and it's so glorious. But we've got to talk about Travolta standing up and making that one last proud moment, where he's like, just the insanity has just, we haven't even talked about the ain't it cool line where Slater says, you've gone out of your mind, Deke. Travolta says, yeah, I know, ain't it cool? And that's just the epitome of his character. Like, he's gone out of his mind. He's just going to blow up everybody in the world out of spite, or in the U.S. or in Denver, and for miles and miles out from there. But just the fact that Travolta, I don't know if it was in the script or what, because I read that Travolta, it was his idea to kind of make this character larger than life and kind of play it up, more than I guess it was originally written by Graham Yost. But just the fact that he stands up there and bows up and smiles, like you said, and just has that crazy look, he's just going to go out in some sort of glory, some twisted sense of glory in his own mind that the nuke that I brought into this world is going to bring me out of it or something. It's just, it's really fitting, this one last crazy act. It's pretty great that they have that little touch in there for his death.
Yeah, it's perfect. They could not have done it any better than it was done. And even whenever Slater, his first thought is, let me check on the nuke and make sure it's disabled and everything's okay. So he goes through the wreckage and finds it. And what's there but the burned up $20 from earlier.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, man, with the repetition and the thematic motif, the symbolism.
And then we get a repeat of the scene from earlier where Mathis and Slater first meet, and he turns around because she tells him to, turn around, sir. And then they embrace each other in this nice hug. They don't kiss, even though there's sparks of romantic tension there. It's a reunion of partners. And cut to black. Broken Arrow title in red on the screen. Awesome Hans Zimmer music comes to an end, which it's like a 16-minute piece that he composed for the end of this movie that's built up to this last little motif of Broken Arrow coming up on the screen and then the credits. And if you don't like this movie, I don't know if we can be friends.
You're dumb.
That was Roger Ebert's biggest mistake. I think when they reviewed this, if I remember watching it, Siskel was like, it's okay, and Ebert bagged on it to the point to where Siskel's like, I guess I agree with you. I guess it's not that good, which I hate that. I feel like if Ebert knew what was coming, after his death and even just in the years after this with action films and really dug into this movie more, I think he would have recognized its greatness.
Yeah, that was the only movie apparently that he convince Siskel to change his rating on from a thumbs up to a thumbs down.
Which is insane because they argued about so many movies that were maybe more divisive movies or less divisive movies. For it to be Broken Arrow, that's a shame, man.
And his main complaint, I guess we can get into this, is that he felt like it had the trope of the talking bad guy. Like if the bad guy has the means to blow everybody up or, reach his goal or whatever, but he just keeps talking instead. I feel like I recognize that trope. I know what he's talking about, and that there are movies that do that poorly. But I feel like everything in this movie with Travolta's character was justified because of his insanity, his
that's why
competitive
he's
edge
doing
with
it.
Slater.
Yeah,
right.
I think Ebert missed the point there because he's doing it so he can talk about it. That's the whole deal. Does he care about blowing up all those people? No. Does he really care about getting $250 million and buying stock in Volvo? I don't think so. He just wants somebody like Howie Long to say, "You the man." That's it. That's all he wants is recognition of his greatness. So, of course, he's going to talk about it. I feel like this was a movie. I know this for a fact. At some points, Ebert wasn't taking a film seriously just because of what it was. And, he just wrote some notes.
Film.
Yeah, and wasn't really tuned into it like you and I are, where, we've watched it multiple times and we're noticing all these repetitions and subtleties, which, again, this isn't Citizen Kane, but, it's a great action movie.
Well, talking about, the subtleties and the callbacks and stuff, I want to go back to what you said about partners and how in the end here, Slater and Mathis have finally Slater, for one, has given up on his friendship, obviously, with Crazy Deakins, Travolta's character, because he's dead now. He's been crumpled in half by the nuke. Their friendship was toast long before that. But do you remember in the beginning with the boxing match where Slater is on the ground and Travolta reaches out a glove to help him up, and Slater kind of beats away the glove. He doesn't want his help. He rejects it. And I love how we get a mirror image here at the end where, like you said, they come together. It doesn't seem like they're kissing, but we get a close-up on their hands as they shake hands, and then they kind of grip each other's hands together as they embrace, and they formally introduce themselves. And, yeah, it seems like he's found his new partner here in the end. If it becomes romantic or not, they've gone through this, and they have great affection and respect for each other. And I just love how the hands coming together there are a flip on him rejecting Travolta's hands in the beginning.
Nice catch, man. That's a great catch. You the man, Wu. Wu is the man.
You the man, Woo. Good stuff.
I hope Howie
yeah.
Long told him that at some point during the filming of the movie. And if not, maybe
sure.
that's why he left. If Howie Long would just go to Asia and tell John Woo this, he'd come back to America.
You gotta know that Howie Long was on the side, like watching all these explosions and just going, "You the man, Woo."
He had to be.
He had to.
We would have done that.
It's just a really fun, great movie. They're like on that level with Point Break, where it's just got great direction, great performances, great script, really cool stunt work, really good effects for its time. It holds up in every way for me, and I'm really glad you picked this for our film this time. So again, not usually I don't give like a 5 out of 5 or anything for like a movie of this genre. I don't know if that's hypocritical not to just judge it for what it is. But I'd say I'd at least give it like a 4 out of 5 or 4.5 out of 5. So what about you?
It's an 8 out of 10 for me. Definitely. You know, I hadn't watched it in a while. I was thinking I probably wouldn't give it that high a score. You know, maybe it was just because how old was I when this came out? I turned 15 right after this came out. So, you know, maybe that was just all my hormones raging at explosions and all this awesome stuff that was happening, military vehicles blowing up, cool one-liners. But actually, now that, you know, now that I'm old, looking at my hairline every day and praying that it stays exactly where it is, which I'm not sure is actually happening, I'm still loving this movie. Man. I think it's awesome.
Any complaints? Anything that you were disappointed by or that you nitpicked?
Not really. I mean, you know, I talked about when they were sparring earlier and it was bloodless, even though they're beating each other's faces in. I feel like it rectified that with, you know, when they're drawing blood in the fight at the end of the movie. Like, even though realistically, which it's dumb to say realistically in regard to everything in this movie, but they would have been bleeding and probably both knocked out cold. I like that, again, it's called back to later in the movie whenever they are bleeding quite a bit because they're really going at it.
When he says, "Oh, you're bleeding now."
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have any complaints. I mean, the reason I wouldn't go above an 8 is just, you know, obviously there's tropey stuff here. That's tropes of the genre. It doesn't quite transcend that, but I mean, it's great. As far as everything we've watched up to this point, for me, it's this, Point Break, Tremors, Total Recall, love all of them.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you, man. All that stuff is great. It's up there with all that. Like I said, I don't know if looking at it in different ways, I don't know if I'd really lodge this as a complaint or a disappointment, but just the natural idea of that 90s kiss at the end where I just wanted that. I just, you know, just the natural instinct in me. I wanted the 90s kiss right there with the credits rolling over the image like Speed or like Tremors or something.
You've known each other for 12 hours. Now kiss.
Right. Now make out because you've been through a hideous ordeal. It was nice that we just get that close-up of the hands and we're kind of left to wonder where their relationship will go. And thinking about it as I watched that, I was like, well, maybe they didn't want it to be too similar to Speed because it would, you know, ends in that same way.
That.
You know, then I read, it's written by the same guy. So yeah, he probably would want to change it up a little bit so it doesn't just feel like, you know, he's repeating himself. So probably a good move on his part for sure.
Yeah, I do feel like that's a conscious decision by Yost, you know, because he even had the line in Speed about relationships that form under traumatic events not lasting. So he's kind of already done that, right? Because we've got another traumatic event and a relationship forged in it. You know, maybe let's not go full in on the romance because I just did that.
Right.
And I'm going to do something a little different here. As much as I love Speed, I haven't rewatched it as much as I've watched Broken Arrow, which I've watched Speed a lot. Unfortunately, again, I haven't really watched it since the period that I watched Broken Arrow a lot. So I'm looking forward to watching that again at some point.
Definitely. I've probably rewatched Speed more than I've watched any other 90s movie, like 90s action movie, just because I love it so much. I'd probably hold this up at the same caliber as Speed. I wouldn't say Speed is any greater than this film. It's not like miles above it or anything. I'd probably say they're pretty equal in enjoyability and just being well made. I mean, this might even be a little bit more, you know, well made, well directed. Not as, I don't think I ever really like cringed at any moment.
Yeah, you can argue that the overall acting from the cast is better because there's a few funky line deliveries in Speed where it definitely feels like they got a few community theater actors to fill out the cast.
Right, and that probably does suffer a little bit from having, you know, more of a cast and some character actors and stuff having to give you some funky line readings and stuff. Where, as you said, in this, it's more insular, and you just have the major players on the field churning in some great performances and eating up a lot of the screen time. So
exactly. And hey, speaking of suffering, are you ready for trivia?
I'm ready. Let's get it. Let's get it on.
Listen, I'm scared. I feel like you're bringing the wrath this time. Like you're going to be asking me what the 20th digit of pi is, because there's a movie called Pi, so it's justified.
Nice.
Graham Yost reference.
Well, I had one question about what other films Mathis and Slater were in, but you already answered that earlier on. So.
Oh, I wish I wouldn't have said that, because then I could have got that question right.
You stole that from me. All right. Yeah, these might be like super easy for you, so I don't know.
All right, 2 out of 3. Let's go.
I'll go first since I lost last time. So, Slater trivia, like I said, I'm going to be bringing a lot of him into this, obviously. Broken Arrow adjacent kind of trivia. Number 1 question for you, Nick. Slater acted, not starred necessarily, but acted in what other 1996 film? Was it Murder in the First, Julian Poe, Bed of Roses, or Swingers?
Oh, man. Let me say Bed of Roses.
Ah, you got it. Yep. And
yes.
he did star in that, so that was me trying to throw you off.
Right on. Nice.
Yeah, and that was 96.
Woo!
Nice. Good start.
Samantha Mathis made her big screen debut in Pump Up the Volume, also starring Christian Slater. Pump Up the Volume was directed by A. Brian Doyle, B. Alan Moyle, C. Dizzy McGoyle, D. Harry Boyle.
Is it B. Alan Moyle?
You got it.
Nice.
The Moyle Man.
The Moyle Man. What else has he done? Yeah, we'll get into some more Pump Up the Volume for sure.
He didn't do a whole lot after that. I don't think he's made a film in 13 years.
Wow.
Which is a shame.
Okay. So what other film links Graham Yost in his writing to a cast member of Broken Arrow? Was it A. Hard Rain, B. Wind Talkers, C. Face Off, or D. Swordfish?
Wind Talkers.
Wrong.
Oh.
It was Hard Rain with Christian Slater.
Dang, I didn't know he wrote that.
Another favorite of mine.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, man. Yeah, we need to do that on the show.
It looked cool from the trailers. I just never got to it.
Just him running around in a bunch of rain for the whole movie. It's awesome.
All right. Broken Arrow's cinematographer was Peter Levy, who is also the cinematographer for what previously covered Film Shake Film? A. Cutthroat Island, B. Point Break, C. Surviving the Game, D. Wild Wild West.
A. Cutthroat Island.
You got it.
Yeah, because it's actually funny that I think Oliver Wood was originally the cinematographer for Cutthroat Island, and then he broke his leg or ankle, and then Peter Levy replaced him. And then he was originally going to be the cinematographer for Broken Arrow as well, but then Peter Levy replaced him again. So that dude
dropping the Cutthroat Island knowledge there, buddy.
Snap, man, snap.
I'm glad I turned you on to that movie, even if it's not a good movie.
I love it. It's my favorite bad movie right now. All right,
what you got for me?
All right, so Christian Slater plays Mark Hunter in 1990's Pump Up the Volume, in which he runs a pirate radio station. What is his radio handle? So would it be A, Rotten Randy, B, Hard on Harry, C, Wet Wild Willie, or D, Acid Mouth Adso?
B, Hard on Harry.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah, I'm up on my Pump Up the Volume trivia.
Nice. That's like stuck in my mind. I haven't seen Pump Up the Volume in probably like 15 or 20 years, but Hard on Harry is just right there in the forefront of my brain.
Let's go with my next question.
All right.
Broken Arrow's screenwriter, Graham Yost, also wrote for which early 90s Nickelodeon program? A. Salute Your Shorts, B. Hey Dude, C. Rugrats, D. Young Donk Cephas, The Rise of Donk.
He had to get Donk Cephas in there, huh?
One day it's going to be right,
and
it's going to throw you off. It's my rope-a-dope.
Your rope-a-dope. It's your long plan, huh? Yeah,
that's right.
Your long game. Is that what they say?
Yes,
and
when you miss it, I'm going to make you watch the worst film of all time.
Man. Was it Rugrats?
Wrong.
Oh.
Hey, dude.
Oh, hey, dude. Snap. Okay.
All right, we're tied.
Tied.
We've each gotten one right.
All right, I have to make up a question now. All right, so Samantha Mathis was also in another film with John Travolta in which she is killed by his character. Would it be A, Domestic Disturbance, B, Basic, C, The Punisher, or D, Be Cool?
C, The Punisher.
You got it.
Yes.
Probably pretty easy.
John Travolta starred in 2 other major motion pictures in 1996. Which one was directed by Nora Ephron? Was it A, Primary Colors, B, Phenomenon, C, Michael, D, Orientation, a Scientology information film?
Is it Scientology information film?
Wrong! He really did make that in 1996, but the correct answer is actually Michael. That's the only one that was directed by Nora Ephron.
Nice.
And that wasn't a major motion picture. The other was Phenomenon.
That makes sense. Yeah, I thought about Phenomenon as a choice for the podcast at some point.
Phenomenon.
Yeah.
So I actually did not get to the question that had Mace Me as an option, but I'll save that for later.
Save that one for me. All right, so what am I going to be watching now that I've lost?
All right, so we talked about this movie a little earlier. I couldn't think of the name of it. I should have checked my notes, which I just found, that say the name of this movie, because this is what you're going to watch. It's 1998's Firestorm.
Nice.
Starring the one and only Howie Long.
Oh, sweet.
So this movie was a pretty big flop, and unfortunately I think there were bigger designs on what it was going to be, and it was going to have a bigger budget that got slashed pretty drastically. I never got around to watching it, and I'm still not going to get around to watching it. You are, and I want you to tell me how it is.
I want to say I might have seen this like back in the day.
I hope you did.
He's a firefighter, and he has to go in and fight fire with fire. Yeah, this looks pretty great. I'm going to get into this for sure.
Man, I was on my game today with the trivia.
Yeah,
That's the best I feel like I've ever done.
Yeah, man, I was surprised you knew so much about Pump Up the Volume. Well, it looks like you've done some good prep work then for our next episode, because that is going to be the film that I choose for our next main show. So,
I finally get to meet Hard on Harry.
Hard on Harry. So
yes, I know so much about him. I can't wait.
Awesome. So yeah, next time we'll be watching 1990's Pump Up the Volume with Christian Slater and Samantha Mathis again. So I figure, hey, this is a good time to just dive deep into Slater again for me. You'll do me the favor of picking another Slater film afterwards, right? We'll just keep it going.
Well, this is going to bridge into what I was hoping to do after the next episode pretty well in a way. And also, of course, we like to have a little connection between movies. The last movie was Godzilla. Godzilla was created by nuclear warhead testing. So, of course, Broken Arrow, all about a couple of stray nuclear weapons.
There might have been like a copper mine lizard deep down in that mine shaft that turns into a kaiju for another Broken Arrow 2.
Copper mine lizard's coming.
Broken Arrow 2, copper mine lizard attacks.
I'm getting in line for that as soon as it's announced. I don't even care if they're selling tickets yet.
I was also going to punish you with 1996's Bed of Roses if I won trivia. So I'm just going to keep the Slater going.
I don't remember what 90s romance song was playing during the trailer, but I remember watching the trailers for that and just going, yuck.
Yeah, I remember not being very satisfied with that movie.
So I'm glad that I won.
Good.
I'm just going to watch Pump Up the Volume multiple times instead of watching Pump Up the Volume and Bed of Roses like I would have had to do. And you can watch Pump Up the Volume and Firestorm, and it'll be great. I think you're going to have fun.
I think so, too. It's going to be good. All right, man. Well, good times. Good talking about these movies with you. And send us some feedback if you want to tell us your favorite John Woo films or favorite one-liners or scenes from Broken Arrow. You can tweet at us on Twitter at 90s Movies Pod, and you can email us at filmshakepodcast@gmail.com. So
Yeah,
drop us
that
a
would
line.
be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
If you want to leave us a review on whatever iTunes is called now, if it's still
Apple
iTunes,
Podcasts,
Apple
yeah.
Podcast, or anywhere else, even if you just want to say, these two guys won't shut up and I hate them, still just give us 5 stars, you know.
Right.
Just
we'll
to be
let
nice.
you write that in, but
Yeah.
5 stars would be appreciated.
Yes.
It helps, helps get the word out. So
For
yeah,
sure.
appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time for more Film Shake.
Take it easy. Limp Bizkit would be proud of these stunt doubles because they keep rolling. Come on! Thanks, Fred Durst.